Is that you need to start with a basic question that you have to find for yourself. And the question that I always start with is this, no matter what we're designing. About a month ago, I was given the license to provide the content for the first private telecommunications channel in China. And the reason they gave it to me, but they told me later, is when they asked people what they would do if they could communicate with all the children in China, everybody talked about how much money they would make. And the Minister of Culture said, "You're the only one who talked about the children." So it's because I always start with this question. And it's not just our children, it's not just you or your children to come, but it's all species. So when you start to think like this, things happen that are different. Like, so this is our home, and we're all indigenous people to this place, and we're not leaving. To be an indigenous person means you're not leaving. You know your stories. And we'll be here 5,000 years from now telling our stories. So what are your stories? So I found that if you learn how to click a button, somebody else do this. So what does it mean for us to be native to the planet now that we're the dominant species? Because we're all over the planet, and all the mammals on the planet are under human management now. So we have to ask ourselves, what's our design? Because if we allow the world to be destroyed the way we are, then it's tragic. And we have to ask ourselves, is it our plan to destroy the world? Because if that is the plan, we're doing perfectly. If it's not the plan, what's the plan? Who has the plan? Well, you have the plan. So, what is the plan? We're going to have to figure it out. So, I like to start with this poem by a German philosopher, Hildegard von Bingen. She became a saint. This poem was written in 1108. Glance at the sun, see the moon and the stars. Gaze at the beauty of Earth's greenings. This will become more important today, as you'll see. Now, think. So, since I was going to be meeting with students, I thought it would be nice if we talked about what it means to think. And I often wonder, especially with professional adults, if it hurts to think. It's amazing how many meetings you're going to, and it looks like people are having trouble thinking. So I try to keep it pretty simple. So we're going to go through a talk. I'm just going to talk about the sun, the moon, the stars, and the Earth's greenings. Because it's really important to understand that the sun is you can think of as physics. Earth you can think of as chemistry. And life you can think of as the greenings. When you put those together, you start designing, as you see in this place, what happens when you think this way. It means you have to rethink thinking itself. So, just to show you where I come from, I was born here in Tokyo in 1951. And as a baby, I remember my mother would sing us to sleep in the middle of the night because we'd be woken up at 2 in the morning by the farmers who would come with their ox carts, and they would come and collect our sewage to take to the farms for fertilizer. And when you're a 3-year-old, stories about poop are just everything. We just thought this was fantastic. But my mother would use interesting language. She would talk about the farmers coming with the honey wagons to collect the night soil. His words were so beautiful for a child. So I always thought this, since our poop went out to become our food, I always thought that the city and the farms were one organism. It never occurred to me that our food and the city were not the same thing. So I still think like it. That's why this project here, see, will be a project where it will make more energy than it needs to operate. Imagine that. Like a tree. Then I moved to Hong Kong when I was 6, and I lived in a place with 4 million people on 40 square kilometers. Probably 5 times the density of Amsterdam. And during the dry season, we had 4 hours of water every 4th day. So I got to live in the future. We had every disease. We had cholera, typhoid, typhus, ringworm, yellow fever, scarlet fever. We had everything. And yet, you know, we all supported each other. In the summers, I lived in the Puget Sound of Washington State, where the big trees are. My grandparents lived there in a log cabin, and I got to live in a world of abundance. We had salmon, oysters, cougars, lynxes. It was amazing. Very big trees. We had trees that were 4 feet, 4 meters. After I went to college, and before I went to architecture school, I lived in the Jordan Valley with the Bedouins. The Bedouins are the tribe, these are the Hashemite Bedouins. They travel from Saudi Arabia up to Syria, through Jordan and Iraq. And the borders had all closed. And so for King Hussein, who was a Bedouin, I worked for him, and my job was to go up and down the Jordan Valley from the Dead Sea to the Sea of Galilee and find the places where these people would settle there, because they couldn't travel. The borders were closed. And the Palestinians had all been moved up into the hills because he said it's finding things for the kids to do. So, how about the kids get there in the morning and go, let's wake up the building. Let's put the building to bed. Why not? So, it was fun. But I also noticed that these little kids, while we were having this argument, were eating furniture. They're running around, they'd be chewing on this. They'd have their mouth on that. And I was thinking, what is that? What are they eating? Do we know what's in that fabric? So I started to look for an ecotoxicologist because I wanted to know what was in all the materials. I also won a competition for skyscraper in Poland, and I asked for the developers to plant 10 square miles of trees to offset the building's effects on global warming. Now, in case that doesn't sound unusual, how old are you? This is 23 years ago, and we're still having that conversation. See? Think about it. We're not that smart. Humans are not that smart. You know, we went to the moon, came back before we put wheels on our luggage. We're really not that bright. So, in 1992, I wrote the design guidelines for the World's Fair for the year 2000. Sustainable design, called it Design for Sustainability. And the one I want you to look at today, which you're living in right here, you see, eliminate the concept of waste. So, I don't use the word waste. If I said to you, don't think of a pink elephant, you think of a pink elephant. You can't help it. So if I say waste, you think waste. So don't use waste. If you hear the word waste, you just stop and say, I don't use waste. Nutrients. See? There's no such thing as waste. One thing's waste is another thing's food. So just think nutrients. And watch what happens. 1994, we built a building. I decided to design a building like a tree. A building that makes more energy, it needs to operate, it purifies its own water. This building makes 13% more energy than it needs to operate, and it's operated by students. It purifies its own water in that greenhouse. The students run the building, and they run it from the web, from the internet. Don't forget, this is 20 years ago. So the students develop the databases and the system so they can manage the building along with solar collectors remotely. The students who did this, who were 20 years old then, they're now older, they turned this into a company that's now worth about $1 billion. That's something. Building management software company came out of this building because the kids wanted to see what's going on. Keep track of it. Pretty exciting. This is for the Gap. This is their corporate campus, 1994, in San Bruno, California. And again, being native to place, these are the ancient grasses of this place. So from a bird's perspective, they could look down and say, oh, it's our people. They're back. That's their habitat. That's what they're looking for. So it's an oak savanna. So the building is the ancient landscape, as far as the sky is concerned. That's a roof. Why wouldn't you rather see that? Bar. That's the interior. It's all done in normal budget. It's the first large-scale use of raised floors, like computer floors, where we have space. And but we did an entire building with it. The first time we even had to write the law that let that occur. Sometimes you have to do things like that. And what it allowed is that all night long, in this beautiful climate in San Francisco, we could take the cool air at night and we could move it under the floors for free. And it would move in from the sides of the building and then go up and out through the skyline here. The end. So the building breathes like an organism. So all night long it's cooling down. And then during the day, we bring the coolness up through the floor. And everybody has their own air conditioning wherever they want it, wherever they're sitting. So if they move the furniture, because you can, take your air thing and stick it over there. You always have it with you. So we had 100% fresh air all day long, cooled for free. We cut the energy consumption of the building by 70%. The other thing we never showed the client, but he did ask for it later. We said, we're going to design the building as apartments, live in. And then we'll make it an office building. Because we found that if we design something you can live in, it works great for working. But sometimes, certainly in America, we design these giant office buildings with huge floors they could never be lived in. And so they don't have any flexibility. So if the market for offices goes away in San Francisco, you turn it into apartments. It's anticipatory design, we call it. This is a factory for Herman Miller, the people who make the famous Aeron chair. So the office workers are here, factory workers are there, and then we just created this boulevard. So all the workers, when they're doing meetings or lunch or training or going to the bathroom, they come out on the street. And so they always have a civic life. They're not lost in some black box. Why is that important? Well, if you're in business, you know, money matters, so let me show you what happened to the money. This is why we get to do what we do. It follows the money. Okay. Normal building, metal shed. Less fancy than this metal shed. A metal shed, $44. This was $49, so it's 10% more. It's 30,000 square meters, cost $15 million. We did it from the day we were hired until they moved in 9 months, which is about a third of what most buildings are. Okay? That's worth money. But here's the main thing. Why are we making these buildings? 350 people moved from a dark black box with artificial light into this building. And don't forget, when I asked the clients what they wanted, the way I did it, I said, well, you know, we're in Michigan here, you know, it gets dark in the winter. I said, if your building was a car, what kind of car would it be? And the president said, well, it wouldn't be a Mercedes with tinted windows. It would be a 1960 4.5 Mustang convertible, probably pink. This is a nutty guy. He was the president of the company. He always wore bicycling clothing. All he ever wanted to do was get on his bike and run away. He was an amazing guy. He goes, okay, pink Mustang, huh? Wow. And if it was clothing, what kind of clothing would it be? He said, well, we wouldn't be a button-down suit. It would be an aloha shirt. I said, really? So I see. You don't really want to be in Southwest Michigan. You want to be in California. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build California. So that's what we did. Voila. Full of light. See? So it's full of light. You can see the outdoors. We have Beach Boys playing on the radio. It's amazing, right? But look what happened. People go to California, they go to work. Oh, yeah. 350 people moved from that building to this building. They used to make $250 million worth of furniture. In the first year, they made $350 million worth of furniture. Same people. Now, what's that worth to a company? $100 million more revenue. Take out the cost of the material, it's $55 million. This building improved their profitability by $45 million a year from the same people. Now, do the math, right? The building costs $15 million total. So the building is being repaid every 4 months. The whole building. It's not like, oh, we saved a little energy. Are you kidding? The entire building is paid for itself every 4 months. You can do the math. Why do you think companies like this? Right? Remember that. But have fun. You build it, have fun, make it beautiful. Anyway, we won the competition for Nike's headquarters here in Hilversum in 1995. Another strange competition. The developer, not Delta, called us, and they were having a competition for 3 architects, British, Dutch, American. And they looked at 40 architects around the world to see, because they were trying to attract Nike. So they wanted to build one of these complexes and say Nike will take the 350,000 square feet, first 35,000 square meters. And they called up and said, would you do a competition and come with the drawings and see if you can win? And I said, are we getting paid for this? And they said, no. I said, really? Do we get to come see the site? You pay for us to come see the site? I said, well then, we can't do the competition. They said, why not? I said, because it's arrogant and it's stupid. And they went, oh, how do you get work? I said, well, we tell stories. But we're not going to draw anything. They said, well, you're going to come over here with nothing? I said, exactly. Well, we're not going to pay you to come here with nothing. I said, you weren't paying me to do something anyway. And slavery was abolished in the United States with 13. So we can't do it, we're Americans, sorry. And they said, this is ridiculous, you know, but I guess you got to come because Nike picked you and these other firms, and we're expecting, if you want to show nothing, I guess you lose, and that's your business. I said, that's fine, we'll pay our own way, don't even pay us to come. Let's come tell stories. So I said, just let me be last. So we got there, and it was this giant harness racing track in Hilversum, right in the middle of downtown. And we went in, and the other architects came out with their models. They spent a fortune on these things. And I walked in with nothing, and they said, why are you here? I said, I'm here to tell stories. Well, tell us a story. How do you measure success? I said, well, we measure success by how many birds return to the site. And we just did an inventory out there. You've got 2 crows, and they're not singing. So we got work to do. And they're going, all right, what's this about arrogant and stupid? I said, look, arrogant was asking us to design a building for a site we've never seen. That's arrogant. In a city that really cares about us. It doesn't make sense. How can we do it right? And stupid is asking us to design a building for a client, and there was Nike at the other end of the table, right? 14 Nike people. I said, stupid was asking us to design a building for these people we've never met. How are we going to get it right? I said, I don't know what they've seen today, but it wasn't designed for them, because they weren't talking. And so all the people at Nike looked at the developer and said, hire him, just do it. Beautiful. So we got to work that afternoon. We went to the city hall. I met with the urban planner, and I said, what are you afraid of? And he said, we're afraid the people coming to this, do I have a picture? I don't have that picture. Huh. But it's all designed to be converted to housing. But they said, what we're afraid of is we have this train line, and then people get off here, and then they're going to walk through this residential neighborhood to get to this big complex, and they're going to destroy it. All the residents are really worried. I said, really? Oh, okay, what else? Over here, we have this beautiful park you should see. He was just mentioning it to me. There was a park designed by Henri Bradlaga, an Art Nouveau architect. Right? An Art Nouveau park. Anybody here seen an Art Nouveau landscape? It is a treasure. Anyway, it's right over here now. So I said, you know, we should let our people see the park, but if they come here and they cross the tracks, it's not safe. They go to the neighborhood. What if we extend the train platform like that, and then we'll put a little bridge like that, so people get off the train, walk right into this, and then we put the running track, you see, right over the front door. These are athletes. Okay. So you can run around this thing, and you can run right over the track and up into the park. You don't touch the neighborhood. And so we gave the neighborhood an athletic field. And the developers expected it to take 2 years to get approvals. It was approved in 16 days. And they moved in less than 2 years. Because we worked together. We talked to each other. And the building's designed out of local brick. Beautiful color. The Dudok, the Wilhelm Dudok, that done the town hall with this brick. Beautiful. Great color. So they were our first client to ask me if I would also work on the shoes. Once they saw the building, they said, let's keep going. So then in 1999, I was asked by Ford Motor Company to redo this. And the joke in Detroit is that this is a color photograph, right? Which is pretty close. So The question is, do we just shrink our footprint? Are we just trying to be less bad? If I just do that, does it really make a difference? If I reduce my badness, is that really good? See? People think being less bad is being good. It's not. These are not two numbers that multiply into a positive, two negatives. You know? Less is a relationship, bad is a human value. So you are, by definition, bad, just less. Not that interesting. So we designed the world's largest green roof. That's what it looks like now. This was under construction. And we did science of how to restore the soil using plants. That saved $2 billion on contingent liability if they become a Superfund site. A little move, worth a lot. But you have to learn the language to get this kind of work done. That's the roof. And don't forget, all the roofs you're looking at here are photosynthetic. This one is solar collectors over your head. This building is making energy. Okay. The other ones are grasses or plants. You see them. All these roofs are doing something photosynthetic. They're either making electricity or oxygen. So this idea of zero emissions, it's ridiculous. When I see Toyota put an ad and they put a tree on it, they go, zero emissions, our goal. And I look at the tree and I go, zero emissions? This is science? You gotta be kidding. This thing's emitting oxygen, bird songs, soil, beauty, cherry blossoms. What is your problem? But the emissions are good. See? Why is zero emissions? It's stupid. You're making oxygen. If they don't emit oxygen, we're all dead. Stupid. Anyway, so here's a building making oxygen. So it's not reducing my footprint. It's making something that's because, see, look, the birds landed in 5 days. The roof is covered with birds. There's no oxygen. Fantastic. Children. Anyway, this is how I sold it to this company. I had 1.5 minutes to sell this to their board and go through. So Bill Ford said, Bill, I know they didn't give you much time. A minute and a half. Take twice as long as they gave me. A minute and a half is fine. So I went in and I said, look, I got a minute and a half, so I'm going to take the first 30 seconds for me. And I can tell you, this building is for the birds. And that is true. But since you're fiduciaries in the car business, we should talk money in cars. So let's talk money. To meet the Clean Water Act, you have already proposed to spend $48 million with chemical treatment plants and pipes and lots of auto workers standing around praying it doesn't rain. That doesn't sound like a very valuable thing to do. It's very expensive. Our whole green system with the landscape is $13 million. So we're going to save you $35 million day one. It's called CapEx, capital expense, on the first day. So that's the money. We're saving you $35 million on the first day. And if you do the math, you're in the car business with a 4% margin on your Ford Tauruses coming out of Chicago at the time. This is the equivalent of walking in here with an order for $900 million worth of cars. You want it or not? Approved. Done. You have to learn the language of the people you're talking to. Because people say, how do you get to do this stuff? It's not just because it's the right thing to do or it's fun or people like it. You got to really sell it through the system and make people understand the value. So for new cities in China, the flood, etc., we're looking at sites and saying, well, wait a minute. What if I moved all the soil up onto the roofs of the city? What if we made the city farms like my childhood mined? I'm a child mine. What if it's powered by the sun? Why not? Why can't I do that? What if you just lifted the soil up into the air? And we start to think about having Paris with farms. Why not? Why not? All the water can get purified. All of our phosphate gets recirculated. We need 4 grams of phosphate per day as humans. Where does your phosphate come from? You know? Morocco. They're in trouble politically down there, and they have all the world's phosphate. It's Chinese. So, you know the Netherlands, October 4th last year, said we're no longer going to import phosphate? Why? Because you see, if you say sewage treatment, you're pink elephants. You think it's a bad thing, you gotta get rid of it. And you put it in the water, it pollutes the water. Sewage treatment. But if you think nutrient management, you don't say I have sewage treatment plants, you say I have a nutrient management system, and I want my phosphate back, and I want my nitrogen back, and I want on top methane for energy and so on. Now, it turns out we can do that, because I'm a venture capitalist too, we invest in these things. We put $20 million into that issue. And you can bolt right onto your sewage treatment plants systems that suck out the phosphate and the nitrogen and make 12% return economically. So now, instead of a city having a thing poisoning water and spending money on it, they have a little factory making 12% return. And that can happen. So the phosphate stays. A guy in China sent me this a year later saying, people think you're crazy. I don't. This feeds 3 families. That's my terrace. Thank you. Yeah. So we're now looking at cities for China that are, this is a one-day sketch we did on quick analysis of how much food we could grow with a city and occupy the city. So we're looking at, this is the new recycling system for San Francisco, which will be doing this kind of thing. This is a building design, makes more energy it needs to operate, and grows all the food for all the people who work here, all the families, 350. The building itself, where they work, the window shades, the plants that are going by. We block the sun with plants. Walk over to the wall outside. Why not? Fun. And then here you are. You're sitting in this. And it's the same concept here. This park will make more energy it needs to operate, purify its own water. And the green roofs on that building right there start at the ground and go up and along the offices and then around the other side and then back up, right up to here. See? So there's a giant green ribbon running around other people. So as they work there all day long, they keep seeing this thing that's around and they can follow it and it comes right into the building. This is on the outside. It's on the inside. So you don't lose track of where you are. So really, the little physics lesson I want to give you now is this. When I was in college, I was an art student. But I had seen Hiroshima, which we blew up in the Second World War with an atom bomb. And I always wondered why my parents would take me to see that. It was a pretty strange thing to do for a little kid. And the whole city had disappeared. Seconds. And I really wondered, like, why would people do this to each other? So I studied political philosophy. But I also wonder, how is it possible that you could make a city disappear? Physically, how do you do that? Why was Einstein afraid if he was the smartest guy around? Why was he so scared? That was my question. So I went to the physics department. I said I need to take physics. And he said, you're an art student. I said, I know. I need to know how Hiroshima disappeared. The teacher said, all right, you need to learn the special theory of relativity. I said, good. Fine, teach me. I can't teach you. You don't know differential calculus. Oh, well. You're going to have to try. I'm a student. You're the teacher. Your job. My job. Come on, let's go. So he gave me this big book. He said, here, go read this. I looked at it. Couldn't do it. So I said, I can't do it. I put it down. Equals MC squared. Can't do it. And I lit a fire. It was in environment school in New Hampshire. There's a lot of trees around the forest. The trees were weeds. And I lit a fire. And I'm looking at the fire thinking, you know, this is entropy. Everything going to chaos, never to return, dispersed minerals, water, energy. It's like a lot of thermodynamics. And doesn't return. I said, but you know, I studied exergy, which is the quality of energy, enthalpy, which is relationships of energy, and then there's this entropy, which is this dispersion to chaos, never to return. What's the opposite of entropy? I'm from the Far East, you know, yin yang, so what's the negative entropy? And I realized we didn't have negative entropy in physics. I couldn't find it. I went to the library. We didn't have Google. We didn't have computers. Anyway, I went to the library and I couldn't find it. I could not find it. You know why? I was looking in physics for it. Because here's the way it works. Watch this. Has anybody done this for me? Want to do it? You have a second? Yeah. You know what this is. You've seen this before.
Oh, yeah.
Special theory of relativity. Einstein. Okay. Let's do the formula. How do you do a formula? Well, the first thing you do is you realize you have to start with a number. The only constant, the only number here is right there. 186,000 miles per second. Okay. Speed of light. Too fast for my mind. Too big a number. I can't think of that. It's too big. It's what happens, 93 million miles, 8 minutes. That's how big that is. Okay. And then you square it. So let's say this is almost infinity. And then you square it. I can't even think about how big that is. And then I looked down at the book and I went, there it is. Because that means that if M is a positive number, like 1, then what is E? Infinity squared. Very small m, very big E. 1 atom. The atom bomb. That is why Hiroshima disappeared. That is the atom bomb. Huh. Now, Einstein was a physicist. So, I started to think, think of that poem. Glance at the sun, see the moon and the stars. Watch what's happening. This is physics. This is energy. This is entropy. This is the dispersion of nuclear fusion into chaos. Amazing. Never to return. There's the entropy. That's chemistry. That's the M. See? That's the E. That's the M. But we don't have income in M. We have math. We have solar income. The only income on this planet is from the sun. Right? That's income. We have about 5,000 times more of this than we need to do this. On the chemistry, we don't have chemical income. We have occasional meteorite, little cosmic dust. That's it. So if we take the chromium out of South Africa and put little holes in the ground, or in our fabrics, see, this color here, you're lucky this is a cradle plate strands. That is a known nasty color, not his chromium. Okay, and green is worse. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, so if we take all these materials and we use them to poison ourselves, put them into landfills or burn them, incinerators, we'll use them all up, and future generations say you poisoned us and all this stuff is gone. What's your problem? What are you doing? So we got to take really good care of this, because we do have income here, but not here. And then I discovered negative entropy. You know what it is? It's not here. That's the trick. That's the trick. It's not physics. Alex, the negative entropy is the log. The log is dispersed chaos from the sun, actually aggregated into minerals and water, the trunk of the tree, burn it, etc. So negative entropy is actually life itself, what Einstein called a mystery. Interesting. And Francis Crick, who discovered DNA with James Watson in 1952, I went on to study that because I wanted to know, what does it mean to be alive? That's the next question. And what they discovered when they discovered DNA, for 9 years, they studied the cholera virus. It looks like a mineral. And they said, is it a mineral? Is it alive, or is it, what is life? And they realized the minute it touched an organism, it grew. So it looks like a mineral, like a crystal, but cholera. I'm working on getting rid of cholera. We have some designs for this, but we can use the sun to do that. Anyway, it becomes this thing that takes over the organism, like cancer. It lives for its own sake. So what they discovered is, to be alive, you have to have 3 conditions. Growth. You're all still growing. I'm still growing. If I don't have cells growing, I'm dying. Okay? You've got to have growth. Second, you have to have a form of income from outside your system, food. You can't have growth without income. That's what the income is for plants. The third is you have to have an open metabolism of chemicals operating for the benefit of the organisms and their reproduction. That's Cradle. In order to be a living thing. So we like businesses that are alive. We tell our clients, grow. Just grow the things we want. Grow the good stuff. Okay? Not the paving. Anyway, so I'm going to finish with this. This is just for fun. NASA came to me and said, would I design the Mars station, space station? And I said, I can't do Mars. Sorry, can't do Mars. I said, what do you mean you can't do Mars? I said, can't do Mars. What are you doing? Going to the red planet. You haven't even come back to the blue planet yet. You want to do a space station? Do one on the blue planet. Then we go to Mars. Okay, start here. Blue planet first, red planet later. It's like, come home. Now, we need you. Why do you keep leaving? Come home. So we're not going to the moon. We're not going to the red planet. You guys can do this. You can do that. It's unbelievable. But guess what, Houston? We have a problem. We don't have an energy problem. We don't. There's plenty of energy. The problem we have is a material problem. It's carbon. material in the wrong place, the atmosphere. Lead is not a poisonous thing. Lead doesn't know that it's a neurotoxin in your head, destroying your brain cells. It doesn't know. It's just a little mineral, poor lead. Now, if it's in this computer, and I reuse the computer, and I never let that lead get out of here, that's a technical nutrient. That's lead doing something useful and good. The minute that gets into the water or your brain, right, it's a toxin. So what is a toxin? A toxin is a material in the wrong place. That's what it is. So lead is not a good or a bad. A tool has no value whatsoever. Right? E equals MC squared. Why was Einstein afraid? Because it's just a tool. I can take a hammer and I can build you a house, and my intentions are good. So the tool is a good tool because of my intentions are good. But if I hit you in the face, it's not a good, see? So the value of a tool is in the purpose to which it's put by a human. Interesting. So we have a carbon in the atmosphere problem. I love carbon. I hope you love carbon. You are carbon. If you don't like carbon, shoot yourself, dry up, blow away. Okay? You're a carbon. So carbon is not bad. Carbon is fantastic. It's, of course, the source of life. It's just we put it in the atmosphere, and then it goes into the oceans. If you do any science, the oceans are now at 8.03 pH, and they were at 8.2 at the end of the century, and they're now on their way to 7.9 pH. And by the end of the century, they could be at 7.9, which is the beginning of carbonic acid, at which point the shells can't form and skeletons can't form on all the microanimals in the bottom of the ocean, and that means the bottom of the food chain has just been destroyed by us throwing carbon in the atmosphere. See? So all these unintended consequences, it's really important. Houston, we have a problem. I don't know if you remember this, but Apollo 13, they ran out of oxygen. Out there. Yeah. And they go, Houston, we have a problem. You know what they did? They took all the engineers and the other astronauts and they built a room within minutes. And they collected everything the astronauts had, tape, pipe, whatever they had, anything they could rip out of the Apollo 13 and make into something else. And they mocked it up on land while the astronauts are fooling around trying to figure out how to breathe. Amazing. And they said, you know, if you pull that thing off of there and stick it onto this, get some tape and put it around that, and make this into a filter and you breathe into that, they figured it out together and got them back. Isn't that amazing? Well, we got to do that now. We got to go fast. We got to go big. So, why are we going to Mars? So I said, I'll do a space station there. And I want that design team, right there. But we're not going to go that way. We're going that way. Okay? So I said, okay, who's in charge of energy in this thing? I took them all to Houston, into that room, where they said those words. We started right there. We all said it together. Houston, we have a problem. It's great. And we said, okay, who's in charge of that? We invented the photovoltaic. Great. So this nuclear power, 93 million mile away power plant, pretty good. Good, you're in charge of power. Now, how about the water in here? It costs about $80,000 to get a gallon of water in there. You have to bring it from here, blue planet, a lot of water. Can't do that. Okay, who did that? Oh, forward osmosis. You're in charge of water. I want to drink my urine. Got it. We gotta learn how to do this. So that's what we did. So that's our design team. So then we built it on Earth. So where are we going to land? You know, make it easy. We landed in a place where you can grow oranges. You know, make it simple. So we landed right below our Google campus in California. There it is on the bottom. This is it. The building will make 120% of the energy it needs to operate. You can drink your own urine. And it's the same budget as a normal building. It was ahead of schedule. It's built. It opened on Earth. We put all the structure on the outside so the vines grow up and shape the building. So, Houston, we've landed. We're not just taking off, we're coming home. Okay? And we didn't just reduce carbon, we increased the goodness. So it's building like a tree. And these are the companies we work with. This represents about $1.5 trillion worth of annual revenue. These people taking up Cradle. So I've got some more, but I don't know that I'll spend much time on it. I'm just going to say that instead of everybody talking about how we can be less bad and our goal is 0, I don't think that's good enough for you guys. If I tell you our goal is 0, is that exciting? Get up in the morning, I'm going for nothing. Ridiculous. The only accountants I know that like this chart Are people tracking expenses? I'm in business. We create revenue. Our job is to have charts that go like that, not like that. I hate this job. You're telling me what you're not. That's a strange commercial proposition to think about. You sell what you're not? That's like ridiculous. If you went in a store and you got a jar and it said not peanut butter, is that useful? You have no clue what's in there. So if I'm not carbon, well, what am I? You're not telling us if you're nuclear or, I don't know. So, or sometimes you'll see like, you know, VOC free something. Well, that's nice, but you just told me what you're not. That's it. I can do it very simply. It's plutonium free building you're in. Didn't cost me anything. I just say it. You know, who cares? You weren't expecting to be exposed to plutonium, were you? So the real question is not, are we going to let the world go to hell while we lose all the goodness? Let's put the stuff we don't want on the bottom and let it go to zero, but the trajectory is good, see? So absolutely stop releasing carbon, but absolutely go renewable. See, that's the difference. This tells you what you want, because you start with your values, not just the measurements. You gotta understand what it means to be an architect. See, engineers know more and more about less and less until they know everything about nothing. And architects know less and less about more and more until we know nothing about everything. And developers and builders know nothing about anything thanks to their contact with architects and engineers. So what happens, engineers always start with the measurements. And all you do is get to your goals, like 20% reduction, because you're starting where you are. And I do Google's strategic planning. I promise you we don't benchmark the Encyclopedia Britannica. We're not going like, oh, we get twice as many entries. You know, it's an encyclopedia. Are you kidding? It's a whole other world. So what we do is we start with values. Oops. We start with our values. And then we measure it. So we start by saying, how do you love all the children, see? And then we end up with these factories that get super productive. So we have to revalue, remeasure. We have new flight paths. We articulate positive goals, and we do efficient things and effective things to achieve it. Yeah. And so that's what we've been doing since we got real smart and put wheels on our life.